Welcome to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Paul Dottino, coming to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. We will not be taking phone calls today. It is another one of our summer training camp previews. And today we look at the Houston Texans. They were 12-5 last year, got knocked out of the playoffs by the New England Patriots. They'll play the Giants in Week 7 down in Houston on October the 25th. And Aaron Wilson of KPRC Television in Houston is kind enough to join us this afternoon. Aaron, thanks so much for taking some time today.
Paul, thank you so much for having me. Excited to talk to you.
Well, I think the first thing that anybody wants to ask you when they want to talk about the Texans is the perception of C.J. Stroud is that he took a big step backwards last season. How close is that perception to the reality? Because for a lot of us, we're left with the impression of the 4 interceptions he threw in the playoff game against the Patriots.
The truth is very much that he did have some regression in terms of performance, not in terms of ability. So it's kind of a fine line to walk. The playoffs was an absolute debacle. I was shocked that he made such poor decisions. This isn't the C.J. Stroud that we saw even during the regular season. It was pretty uncharacteristic. Playoffs is when it matters. That's when you really make a name for yourself in the NFL. That's how you define yourself, what you do in the clutch moments. And this was terrible. And I've seen him perform better in big games. And everyone was obviously disappointed, frustrated surrounding CJ. But that said, there were some, extenuating circumstances. Nico Collins was out with a concussion. They were very too dependent on their wide receiver one. Like most teams, you take away their wide receiver one, you have no passing game. They tried to throw in the snow. I didn't think that they're a cold weather team at all. They're a dome team from the South. I think that affects them. Dalton Schultz pulled his calf muscle. So essentially he had no running game. Joe Mixon was out for the year. Woody Marks is a smaller change of pace back. They since have traded for David Montgomery, which should make people respect play action again and obviously give them a physical inside threat. There's a reason why they call David Knuckles. He's tough. He was a good tandem with Jahmyr Gibbs. But, yeah, CJ could not overcome his circumstances, could not raise his team, could not raise their level or his own level. And it was an embarrassing game for him. And he was made fun of on the internet, which is a cruel place, as we all know, memes and jokes and things like that. He has dedicated himself this offseason, and he has, I would say more defined, leaner. He actually has faster times. They time these guys, how fast they run. And I think he'll be more of a running threat when he wants to be. I also think that concussion he had where he missed the 3 games may have affected the end of his season as well. He just didn't seem like himself after the concussion. He played decent, but he wasn't the same as he was earlier in the season. That might sound to some like, it's a lot of excuses. Well, I also think there's more than excuses. It's reasons to logically understand his performance. What I can't understand is why would you just throw the ball up in the air when they're being rushed? But sometimes quarterbacks under duress, and he's a young man. He's now 24, but he was 23 years old. I think that it overwhelmed him, and he's still a young quarterback, and they have not committed to him long term. They have a $25.9 million fifth-year option that they've assigned him, and this year is pivotal for him. Everyone else got paid. Will Anderson Jr., Derek Stingley Jr., all these guys have been paid over the past year, and CJ, is the aberration. They're not opposed to doing a contract down the road, but for now, he needs to perform, and he needs to perform in the clutch for them to commit to him going forward.
How well do you think he will deal with the pressures that you're talking about right now? Because this is a very, very important year for him. And at the same time, are there any positives, any advancements, any improvements that you saw last season, even though they may have been hidden in the weeds, that he'll be able to build on?
There were some subtle signs of improvement as the year went on because the collaboration with him and offense coordinator Nick Caley was also a rookie play caller last year. He had worked previously for the Rams and the Patriots. We thought he was going to have a little bit more Sean McVay razzle-dazzle, but it was basically that Patriots Josh McDaniels stuff that works very well if you're like a Tom Brady and you're just this very precise passer. But as the year went on, I think CJ got more accurate and he spread the football better. Some of what they do in that offense is a lot of option routes where the QB and the receiver changed the route on the fly, and that got better. But he was having a rookie wide receiver in Jaden Higgins. Jaden still caught 6 touchdown passes, so he wasn't unproductive as a second-round pick. But too many uncertainties with a young quarterback and the offensive line, and I'm sure we'll get into that, Paul, but that wasn't that good. I know that they protected pretty well. He only was sacked 23 times, but that didn't happen in the playoff game. They were all over him. And then they've made a significant resource investment in the offensive line, and they have a good offensive line coach, Cole Popovich, who's also the run game coordinator. I think things will be better for CJ because they've made it harder for him to fail right now.
Well, as long as you mention the offensive line, let me go there before we go back to the skill positions. Keelan Rutledge was a very, very significant draft pick, a guy who he's one of those real slobber knocker offensive linemen. Blue-collar guys love him because he's going to give you 150%. I'm assuming they're going to want him to probably start right away. And have I seen that they're looking at him maybe as a center, not as a guard?
That's right, Paul. You're on it. So Brent Key is the Georgia Tech head coach and a former offensive lineman himself. And he said this guy can be an all-pro center. I believe him. I think that Keelan has the size, he has the strength, and he looks like a pretty natural snapper of the football. And they have not shied away from putting him in with the first-team offense. He's been out there a lot ahead of last year's starter, Jake Andrews. They know what Andrews can do. They'd rather see Ken Rutledge fit in. But if he, obviously if he falters, then they'll come up with a plan B to try to get him in the lineup. The issue, and it's sort of a good problem to have, they have a former Pro Bowl left guard, Wyatt Teller. They've got him signed to a pretty big contract, like 2 years, $23 million. It's guaranteed. They signed their right guard, who had a renaissance type of year after struggling with the Vikings, Ed Ingram, former second-round pick. 3 years, $37.5 million. He's not going anywhere. So you've got left guard, right guard before you went into the draft. So what they did was they found their center. And Rutledge, to me, he probably is a little bit better at guard, but it doesn't mean that he's a bad center. I think he's a good center, and it's slowing down for him. A couple of the guys were telling me that Keelan, we haven't talked to him in a little bit since the rookie minicamp, but he's been telling everybody, I'm picking it up. It's slowing down. I haven't seen one fumbled snap in any of the practices I've been to, Paul, and there's a stark difference. This guy's gigantic, and you want to have a big physical offensive line, and they call him Big Red because he's got red hair, and he's kind of a red, A -- He's a tough dude, a grit dog, and they thought he was crazy at Georgia Tech initially. They're like, what's wrong with this guy? He is so serious about football. He went back and watched that spring ball tape this year after he's already going to the NFL, and he got on Coach Key, and he said, Coach Key, what are they doing? This is not what we're taught. They're slacking. I don't like this. So he still cares a lot about the Georgia Tech program, but I would say he is a tough dude that is like one of those guys you have to calm him down. I mean, he is hardcore, and I mean I wouldn't be shocked if he got in a practice scrap or two if somebody messes with him. He doesn't take any guff at all. I love all the intangibles that I see from Keelan Rutledge, and I kind of kept it under my hat a little bit because there was a late private workout with Popovich where Popovich went to see him, and I was told that, hey, this has got to stand to wraps because he might be the first-round pick. So I played by all media guys, off the record's off the record. So right. They said, you can report it if we draft him. And apparently that sealed the deal for Keelan Rutledge to be a Texan. They're thrilled. This was their guy they wanted all along. They targeted him.
Now, you mentioned David Montgomery a little while back when we were talking about the quarterback. Montgomery's a 2-time 1,000-yard rusher. We know he's done some things in this league. Is the plan to make him the true one? Does Woody Marks become the 1A as he comes back for this season? I mean, how do you think that split's going to work out?
So David is the bell cow, and they're going to have Woody be the third down back, and he's also competing to be the new kickoff returner. because they're increasing the role for Jalen Knoll as their slot receiver, and he'll still return punts. And he'll do some kickoffs, but they want to have 2 kickoff returners. And Woody is, I mean, he's not a small back. He weighs like 210 pounds. He's not like under 200, but, you know, Montgomery's like a 230-pound bull. This guy runs people over. Linebackers don't like to play against this guy. He also can catch passes. He's, you know, a good guy, too. He was an Eagle Scout. He's very proud of that. And he's been in. I've hung out with him a little bit. Woody Marks had a bowling event that he invited me to, and David showed up. We didn't do an interview. I've interviewed him before, but I just got to know him a little bit. And I was very impressed with him, Paul. Really good personality. And what I've been seeing on this field is there'll be a lot of carries. They want to be a running team, and that would make things even easier for C.J. Stroud if we're talking about 1,000 to 1,200 yards from David Montgomery. But if he ever, I mean, knock on wood, if they don't have Montgomery, they're right back to where they were last year without Joe Mixon.
Let me ask you about the passing game for just a minute, though, because Dalton Schultz, you know, we remember what he did in his prior career before he was with Houston, with Dallas. I mean, he had 80-plus catches last year. Tank Dell was not a part of the thing because of his injury. And quite frankly, I don't know what his situation is coming back. How much better will the weaponry be this year? If, of course, the running game gets going, balance is always one of the things that you can do to help your passing game.
It can be better because you have Dalton back. They gave him a $12.1 million one-year extension. He caught 82 passes last year. Like you said, he is a very safe target for CJ. He's either going to catch it or he's going to knock it down if he has to make sure the defense doesn't get it. He runs good routes. He's got great hands. With Tank Dell, the most encouraging thing we've seen in years was him put on a helmet and run a couple routes, and he caught the passes. He does have some muscle atrophy. As you referenced, it was a bad knee injury. It was completely dislocated, torn ACL, MCL, and the lateral collateral ligament, all torn completely. He's had 2 surgeries. I believe he will play football again. We just don't know, is he ever going to have the old acceleration? He looked, you know, quick to me, and some muscle memory's coming back. I don't even know if he's going to be ready first day of training camp for contact. I won't be surprised if they ease him in. And it wouldn't even surprise me if he didn't play until into the season. The reason that they have some excitement is Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, hoping that these second-year receivers they drafted last year in the second round, third round, take that leap. And Higgins looks faster to me. Knoll, I don't think he can get any faster. He's 4.39 and a pretty compact guy that's had some good run after the catch. But Higgins, to me, is the upside, and I think eventually could be like a wide receiver 1 if they ever didn't have Nico Collins around, because Higgins is 6'4". He's 4.4 speed. He can play slot. He can play all 3 receiver positions. And there were some real flashes last year from him, former basketball player, but he's getting more polished in his routes. You know, do I think they needed another receiver? Yeah, I do. But I think they can do this without adding to the equation. These are the group. This is the guys.
People will notice I spent most of our time talking about the questions on offense because we all know how great the defense is. I mean, those guys are scary. Maybe the best way to start this is when talking about the D, and again, we know what they are. What will be the most important changes on this year's defense compared to last year? And quite honestly, how much better can they get?
Well, they added Reed Blankenship, who was a 4-interception team captain guy for the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champs. And Reed was the missing piece because the safety position last year was a revolving door. That was the only weak point. The other safety opposite their Pro Bowl safety, Kalen Bullock. And they have a stud secondary. You've got Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter. You've got a good hard-hitting nickel in Jalen Peter. Remember the Rashee Rice hit in the Chiefs game? He sent that guy helicoptering. So what you have with Blankenship is a heady, smart, good tackler that's got some range and nice height. And I thought he was so steady for the Eagles. And they signed him to a pretty good contract, about 3 years, $24 million. The idea is that now you have someone that's a little bit more interchangeable as a enforcer there, run stopper, and someone that can match up with tight ends. So that they lacked. C.J. Gardner-Johnson was a head case for these guys, as he has been for a few other teams. He's now seems Jose's got together with the Buffalo Bills, but he was a problem. They fired him because he couldn't get along with people and he was not playing defense the way it's coached. And then they went to MJ Stewart. He tears his quad tendon. Then Jalen Reed breaks his forearm, this metal plate he had in his forearm, and it was bad. They had to put Miles Bryant out there, who's about 5'8", 180, as their starting safety. So, yeah, they got Logan Hall. They added Caden McDonald in the second round.
Yeah.
He thought he should win the first round. A lot of people thought that.
I think so, too.
He's about 326, All-American, Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year. This is the best compliment I can give him. When you have 65 tackles and 3 sacks as the defensive tackle, kind of like a nose type, and it's a defense with Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles, both guys that I thought at one point, John Harbaugh and Joe Shane, maybe that was going to be the guys, right? I thought of that. I thought Downs was going to be a Giant. But my point is that those guys are excellent, and he was really good too, so he was a big part of it. And they don't even need him to start. They got Tommy Togiai, they got Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah.
He'll be in the rotation. He'll play like 50% of the snaps. But all of a sudden, they're bigger and tougher. And so is Logan Hall. He's 6'6", 290, and he can also play edge. I worry a little about third defensive end, but as far as how much better they can get, I was talking to these guys the other day, Will Anderson Jr., who's amazing.
Yeah.
I said, what do you want? What can you guys do to stack up to be like the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears or the Legion of Boom Seahawks? He says, I've challenged everybody in this room that we are Super Bowl caliber. And he had everybody the other day at practice, raise your hand if you think we're Super Bowl team. And they all raised their hand, of course. And he said, well, then we have to play to that standard every day. So I think they've got the culture. They've got what it takes to be that kind of franchise.
Has Danielle Hunter showed any signs to you that there could be a slowdown? He's been in this league a while. He's got a lot of mileage on his tires, but I know last year him and Anderson together were just an incredible duo.
Yeah, he had 15 sacks. Will was a finalist for NFL Defensive Player of the Year, but he only had 12. So they combined for 27 sacks, and they were a wrecking crew in the playoff game. Even the Patriots game, that was the only reason they stayed in the game was because of Dottino and Will. They were all over Drake May. But I look at Daniil and the way he takes care of himself. He's actually a local guy. We have a suburb here, a nice suburb called Katy, and he went to a school called Morton Ranch. He was a 6'6", 225-pound, 4x100 and hurdler. He is a rare athlete, and he never – I asked him about cheat meals last year, and he looked at me like I was crazy. This guy, probably one of the better this isn't muscle and fitness. We're talking football, but he's got to be one of the better built guys in the NFL as far as physique, but it's functional. It's his muscles. It works for him. He's loose. He's got a ton of moves. He calls one of them a Euro step, kind of like a basketball jab step, and he spins around you. He makes guys look bad, and he also likes to stop the run. He's pretty tough against the run. He's not just a, finesse rusher. No, not at all. But I don't see him slowing down. No, Paul.
All right, final question, Aaron. The loss to the Pats has to be bitter. That's not the way you want to end your season for sure. How much discussion has there been during this offseason about that game and the bitter taste and having to get that out of their mouths? Is it fuel to the Texans' fire?
It is fuel. They remember that very well. They don't shy away from that or the Super Bowl ambitions. When I asked guys, they said, man, it hurt. It really, really hurts. I haven't let go of it. Not to the point that they're dwelling on it, but that they use it as motivational fuel, they say. And it's not a topic like, that it comes up every day because it was a topic for January, February, March, whenever we run into guys. And now I think they turned the page. It's been the playoff game is over. By the way, I think the Giants are going to be a lot better. And, I know John Harbaugh from my days covering the Ravens. And
sure.
I think John is going to be excellent for the New York Giants, and I'm glad they extended Joe Shane, and I see a good future. This will be obviously a little bit of a transitional year, but I think the Giants are in really good hands. So, if you see John, please give him my best.
Absolutely. See a little bonus action here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. You get a thumbnail Giants scouting report too.
Oh yeah, and
Aaron,
I can say
Wilson,
this:
where can folks get your stuff in case they want to read more about the Texans going into this season?
Yeah. So I'm on television at KPRC2. I write for www.clicktohouston.com. And I'm a former newspaper guy, Houston Chronicle, Baltimore Sun. So that's when I was covering John for the Sun paper. And of course, I'm also on YouTube too, just like you guys. My channel is called Aaron Wilson Sport, and we're up to 45,000 subscribers. We're not as big as the Giants or the Texans, but for a independent media guy, it started a couple years ago. I'm happy about the growth, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, we look forward to seeing you week 7, October 25th. The Giants will be in Houston to take on the Texans. I'll check in with you then, Aaron. Thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, let's talk.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants, coming to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. The show can be heard as part of the Giants platforms everywhere, the Giants YouTube channel, and at giants.com/podcasts. Until next time, I'm Paul Dottino. So long, everybody.